audio signal flow, the MIDI signal flow, and the flow of ideas themselves. This is kind of how you get yourself in the flow state when you're working from an MV in reference to the MV1 Verse Lab as well as the MV8000 Production Studio Series. So we'll start with the more simple one, which is the Verse Lab. The Verse Lab only has one MIDI out, so you want to commit whatever source that is, their audio outs, right here to the inputs on the MV1 Verse Lab. That way you have control of the audio for sample purposes, running through the looper track, or just being recorded during mixdown on the external inputs, as the external inputs are recorded going out the master outs with the rest of the unit. So you have access to the multiplex compressor, the 5-band EQ, and limiter on the way out, just like it was an internal MV1 sound. In my case, that's the Phantom X. So I'm bringing in a capable sound source, synthesizer, and sampler, and a drum machine kind of. So that's a nice little piece. If it was new, if I didn't have the Phantom X and I had to buy a new keyboard to go with my Verse Lab, as I told you before, it would probably be one of those Akai keyboards, probably the Akai Key 61, giving me a nice keyboard layout for the other version of the MIDI. Anyway, that's the Verse Lab. That signal going out of the Verse Lab, external inputs included, into the analog mixer, which I just purchased, and then we're going to stop there with this part of signal flow for the MV1 Verse Lab. Now, let's switch over to the signal flow of the MV8000. It's a little bit more nuanced in the Verse Lab, as it has more inputs too, or if you have the aftermarket expansion, you can get 3 MIDI outs, right? But right now we're going to deal with MIDI's outs, the regular A and B. So A is usually the Integra 7, and then B is the next external, which will usually be the Phantom, or it could be the SP555, depending on what I want to do, right? Those external inputs are going in on the back side of the Integra 7, as well as right here in the front. There are also another set of 1/4-inch inputs. So as you can see the sound field here, all these represent internal Integra 7 patches. This thing over here is the external input. So that is exactly what I was saying about the Verse Lab as well. So you have the external input as well as all the internal sounds from the Integra gathering right here, coming in the inputs on the MV8000. They're going to hit these mic pre's first. And if there's a soft sound, you can kind of wake them up and use the mic pre's as mic pre's. But for the most part, if it's a line level source and you're cool with the sound you have, you'll turn these all the way down. I like to wake them up only when I'm using soft stuff like strings, electric piano sometimes, or some kind of soft pad. I might wake up the preamps on the MV8000. And that's the first set of things that touch the sounds coming from the Integra before it gets inside the MV. It's touching these mic pre's. Now, on the insides of the MV, we're going to run it through any of the MFX algorithms that I may want. Let's say the stereo dynamics processor, or a compressor, or if I'm a guitar player, maybe I want to hear it, running through a guitar multi-pedal with the distortion and the wah-wah and all that good stuff. That can all be ran through after it hits these mic pre's, and on the way to these outputs, it will be processed as part of the analog signal, post analog to digital conversion going out of the MV, okay? And just like the Verse Lab, it will meet up here in either channels 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 and 6. Okay, so now let me explain this part of the signal flow. Once the signal flow comes from either MV and carries to the analog mixer, it's going to hit the Perkins EQ, and then before it hits an interface on the way out of the Mackie Onyx 8 mixer, it's going to hit the Onyx mic pre's. Now, one note, I didn't know this when I bought the mixer, but I found out later that you don't get the analog EQ on the way to the interface. You only get the sound source or the output or the input. It starts at the mic pre's, the Onyx mic pre's. So what I'll be doing is usually when the sound gets to here or it gets to the DAW, it'll be going through 1 and 2. So if I'm working alive and I'm working on the Verse Lab majorly, then it may be going through 1 and 2 instead of 3 and 4 or 5 and 6, because 1 and 2 are the only channels with inserts on the mixing board. And in those inserts, I've inserted Tube Pro channel on 1 and 2, which gives me an extra mic pre after this mic pre and after those mic pre's, as well as a tube compressor, an optical compressor, as well as a tube saturated semi-parametric 4-band EQ on the way out. So those channels have another analog signal in the insert before it goes out, as well as some digital effects on board the mixing board itself. So that is how we're going to do the analog signal flow, going either to streaming devices or to my DAW. Now let's talk the flow of ideas. Now, let's talk the flow of ideas. So, this is a little bit of, it's kind of philosophical a little bit, so bear with me. I think what we have now is kind of the biting economy, right? And what I mean by that is everybody's copying everybody. Whether it's deliberate, because I'm not going to name any names or anything, but I know some of my favorite YouTube content creators and beat makers and producers, actually, some of their master classes have cranked out at least 1 or 2 guys that sound just like them. Okay? Very signature stuff where you're like, wow, that sounds just like this guy, or that sounds just like that guy. And it's not their fault. It's just that the share economy has bred a bunch of copycats. Now, I love YouTube University. I've learned a shit ton of stuff on YouTube. But one thing is I've managed to do is, even if I pull a lesson or pull a tidbit or a tip from somebody, I kind of implement it into my own creative flow, right? And I'm gonna read a passage about the workflow of the MV1 in a minute on the live stream. But right now we're gonna deal with just the flow of ideas and how my setup is kind of set up to capture instantaneous ideas, right? So as you can see, the SP is sitting right here. This is because it's going, the inputs are here inside the Integra, right? But let's say that I wanted to perform a playlist and all the beat machines, all the things were involved except for this. Well, I could easily route everything with a switch, with just simply unplugging these two and plugging this in here, then routing these outputs shortly over here, just a little ways over here to the SP. Then I could control and perform with the MV. I'd have a playlist playing through my MV and I'd be performing the effects on the SP, right? That's one way. Point 2, this nice little beat, this nice little accessory right here. This accessory affords me a bit of flexibility when it comes to dealing with the Integra 7, everything coming from inside the Integra. As I showed you before, I can actually move around different sounds in the sound field right right from in front of me instead of reaching down there. And if it happens to be a supernatural synth sound that I'm dealing with, I actually have editing functionality right here at my fingertips while I'm still on the MV, not a whole different set away from it. Everything is right here. I have barely moved. Everything is right in reaching distance, right? This also allows me to control the mixing functions and everything from the external gear and the Integra Light EQ and everything. Now, when this is not being used with the MV8000 and I'm using the MV1 Verse Lab, a simple switch of this dongle to this one over here, and I'm using Zen Beats, and I'm opening up this screen. Let's see right here. Just say I plug that in, boom. You open up Zen Beats. And boom. Now, 9 times out of 10, if I plug this into here, the Verse Lab editor menu will pop up and I will quickly go on to there. And that allows me, once again, I'm controlling things from here, but I'm actually centralizing it right here in front of me. All this being controlled sonically from also being controlled from an arm length away, right? And this is why the creative flow is important and why the flow state is achievable if you position your gear right. And that takes a little bit of thought into your studio. So I'll give you an example. I went with the compact mixer for several reasons. If I got in the mixer, let's say if I got the Onyx 10, right? The Onyx 10 has sliders. Now, most people like sliders. I like sliders as well. But I was looking to make sure I need to keep a compact footprint. So the encoders cut a whole lot of size off the actual mixer. I mean, the width is great also, but even if I was to get the sliders, it would have been significantly longer and it would not fit into my setup. This way, this almost fit exactly in the same spot that the previous mixer fit in, which is the VS100, which is slightly shorter, but basically the same width, and at the bottom, using the encoders as well, which is fine with me. Most people maybe, like the sliders for the look or whatever, or controlling the DAW. I'm fine with the encoders because it kind of plays into the compact footprint and the utility that I like from it. And that goes as well for this little dandy thing right here. I will be moving on soon from this, but thus far, this has been very useful, and I keep it at arm's distance so I can do stuff like give my viewers a hand. Boom. And trigger off video. Tell you I'll be right back. You know what I mean? And stop and record, and I'm gonna send it to Live Me with the first MV Live Sunday Drive. Check it out.
Is a thing of beauty, is it not? What a man may accomplish if mind
What's cracking, y'all?
set the purpose.
We back.
And there's something missing.
This time we live.
Freedom.
Welcome to the channel.
See, treasure is put to use.
If you stop by, you
trained
catch this
to
live.
live, knowing each choice made.
Appreciate you being around as we start testing the Art of MV Live
The MV was
Sunday Drive.
very different in that
Check it out.
respect because it really was a true full production studio. And I can't think of one other instrument made that you could do everything
From beginning to end, your master
CD burned, red book, qualified edition that you could deliver for distribution. You have piano rolls, you have everything else that you could possibly want in this thing. And one of the most attractive things
about the
quantizing.
Another thing too that, when we're talking about the quantize and everything, that really separated this from anything else out there was you could have it in record mode or just playing, and you could adjust the percentage of the quantize and everything all in real time. The Cosm effects that are built in on the MV, there's actually a lot of boss effects that are built into the Cosm effect.
which is stuff that you found on the VS recorders. So
I plugged his guitar in, I showed him how you could do amp simulations and all these really cool things that you can find in like the Boss ME50. It's got the RE201 tape effect built in. It's got the RE201 tape effect built in. It's got the RE201.
We talking MV today.
Tape effect built in. It's got
We talking recording today. As y'all can see, I picked my theme music already for the MV Live intro. That one has already been kind of mixed, so we can kind of roll with that when we mess around with that. But we're gonna change this real quick. We won't go in and out, so you guys can see me here. What's up? It's Nick Digital, aka Nick Danger, live on a Sunday drive, man. We're gonna talk quite a bit today, man. I want to talk about several things. We're gonna transition the channel to something more involved. So I got some songs I'm gonna be playing. They're gonna be background music, like the one that I just played, which are more. These are songs that are in the mixdown phase, and we're gonna do some mixing on the MVs live, going here on in. I spent the better part of the first season of this basically paying tribute to the MV 8000, which was 20 years old last year, you guys. 20 years old, right? And a worthy machine, man. A hell of a machine to be playing around with, doing music. And one of the things that I felt and that I found that the MV got slept on about was its back end capability. So usually when I hear the DAWless conversations, I don't really hear the MV mentioned too much. And that's a little peculiar considering that it has everything you need in it to finish a product. It kind of embarrassed me a little bit because, I hadn't been too much into the beat making and the music period, except for in a hobby. But the whole time I've had this thing sitting here, and I could have been finishing up entire albums on the MV8000. The MV8000 is way more capable than people give it credit. So this song that's playing right now is going to be in the mixdown phase, right? Now, the part that's playing now is what's internally in the MV8000. It's that beginning sequence is tracked into here. It's 3 tracks of audio on the audio track. So we'll just say the hard disc recorder side, where this is just recorded as live audio in sync with the tempo, but it's not MIDI. It's live audio coming in the inputs. Then there's what's actually coming in on the inputs from the sequence, along with the MIDI, right? It gives you a better look at what the MV is actually doing when it's actually recording and it's actually playing DAW in the role. So it's playing sequencer, MIDI keyboard, and hard disk recorder and mastering suite all in one. And we're gonna take this track here to mix down, but this is just the parts that are inside the MV, and I want to introduce the other parts here shortly. Give me a minute. from a drum sequence that I brought in where the sound's actually coming from the Phantom X. But I recorded into the tickling so that I didn't have to trigger the Falcon every time. That way I can just do that. And that's the beautiful thing about the MV. Plus I took some of the mids out. And it's really just a pattern, a placeholder for a live drummer. I like to do that every now and then. I like to put a live drummer in on some. So this is a placeholder so he can know the pattern, you know. Boom, boom, boom. He knows what the rolls are and everything is, right? So now this is about to end. But it's going to loop around. I'm going to introduce the sounds that are going to be coming from the Integra that you don't hear, right? Okay, so now that way in the background, that little dreamy sequence, let me turn it up a little bit. Hear it. And not too much on this end. Let's see. This right here. The background is actually the main thing that you're about to hear, recorded in on 2 tracks and panned hard on each side. And then it's running through the exact same psychoacoustic delay that string sample that's playing is running through. It's auxiliary 3. And it's running through there just for this sequence. But for the song, it's not. It's just raw. Like right here. Here we go. That sequence right there. And this is going to be one example of mix down we're going to deal with the MV here shortly. So the mix down should occur. So that's what's coming in on the inputs. And we're going to apply an effect to that. We're going to apply a chorus to those inputs. We're going to record the first take without it. And then we're going to record the next take with the input already affected like that. You know what I mean? Now this is going to give us an example of a mix down from internal, where everything is basically laid down from the get-go inside the MV. Now we got something else that's coming on the ESP. We'll get to that in a minute as I do a little bit on the ESP. I'm going to cover a little bit of all my gear here as we get more into this. Now let's say I got something in my SP, right? That's, you know, your SP you can make little chops, but they're just big stereo files, right? You know, I think you should always have your SP, have your drum kits and everything. You know, have your drum kits and stuff all on the first couple of banks as internal sounds. know what I mean? Okay, so I kind of like to do that and do a little sound design strictly for the SP. Like I said, get your drums down, get your drum loops down, and then you can just start kind of making shit. I mean, the SP is such a hands-on sampler, man. Now this comes, and you wouldn't think with how I use this. How did I use this? Let me see. Let's take it over here. That sound that you just heard, that right here. Now check it out. It's in this one right here. Check it out. No, not that. Right here. Right here. That's that exact same sample. And I made this into a whole little kit. Same concept. You're just making like 8-bar loops. That's not a new concept we're rolling, right? Niggas. All that's in the SP. So I can just go. I can make a little bop right there, right? This is 1, 2 version 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 different chops, so it's 8 different sections for the song, right? As short as songs are now, that's a song, right? I'll go even further. Okay, so this is like one of them things.
Niggas are the best of people that were slaves. You know what I mean? That's how they got to be niggas. Because they stole the cream of the crop from Africa and brought them over here. And God, as they say, works in mysterious ways. So he made everybody a nigga, because we was arguing over in Africa about the Watusi and the Wahada and the Umo and, you know, the Samunga, you know. We talk in different languages. So he brought us all over here, the best, the kings and the queens and the princesses and the princes, you know. You know what I mean? Shit, and put us all together called one tribe, niggas.
Let's say I wanted to record this just like this. You know what I mean? I like it the way it sounds just like this. I ain't even got to separate all that shit. But I'm going to switch songs on the MV real quick and start to use this as more of an effects processor, right? To make this one sound better. You can already tell something changed. The stereo dynamics compressor is on. Okay, back to normal. You can hear it mostly in the snare, and it puts a little enhancement on the hi-hats. So I would record this bumped up like this a little bit, or you can go through the effects if you want. You know what I mean? It's on the stereo dynamics process. What we put on here. let's get something a little funkier than that. Check it out. So we got. Always wanted to sample this. Pretty sure Track Live will have it. Let's see if did anybody ever sample this? If you work in the SP like that, you can dump that right into the MV as is and probably get a good thing. And we're going to do just that. So on the MV Lives, where we mixing down on the MV, it's going to be that kind of mix down, where we actually take a whole track. Because basically, I can program those into patterns that just loop for a certain amount of bars in the MV 8000. And then just mix that. Just put that straight into the mastering, and that's what we're going to do. I got a couple of things I want to show you guys with the MV 8000. With that being said, I'm going to switch my focus over here to the MV1 Verse Lab, right? Because we get a bunch of guys who basically, I don't know, it seems like people don't understand exactly what the MV1 Verse Lab or Verse Lab MV1, whichever way you want to say it, was intended for. So I'm gonna be reading a couple pointers from the from actually the developers. You know, when I researched this thing, right? When I researched the MV1 before I bought it, because I wanted to know what I was getting, and the MC series had just come out, right? The MC series had just come out, 101, 707, and I looked at them and I thought they were going to be different things than what they were. Then this comes out, and then the SP, right when I bought my MV, the SP 404 Mark II came out. And I had a 45-day trial, still with some time left on it, to try out the MV1 or send it back if I didn't like it and get my money back guarantee, right? And so it made me go ahead and use the MV, right? And I approached it like I would approach my 8000. Kind of a setback, but not really, and I'm gonna tell you why. But once I got to using the MV, I didn't have as much buyer's remorse, mostly because I already had an SP sampler 555. I didn't really need the sampler on here as much early, and I want to dig more into the sounds, and that's what you can get lost in when it comes to the Verse Lab. So if with the MV 8000, 8800, you can get lost in the sampler and in the depth of what it can do, in the MV1 Verse Lab, you can get lost in the sounds. And with that being said, its utility is a little bit understated. But before I go forward, to you guys that don't really understand what it is, we're about to read some stuff right here. So, in the article with the developers, I'm not gonna drop any names, but you know who the guys are. Let's attack one of the biggest things people have about the MV, which is the track count and why that was done. Some people question it like Roland was somehow silly to do what they did, right? But we all know now that the track count is 7, but there's a workaround because each clip you can change the set of sounds per clip. So that means if one clip is not using a bass, you can actually change that sound. Even though it's going to be a different instrument on the same track as that bass was, it's still not going. It had its own. It had its own path to the master. So later on that's some other shit right there, right? So, before I get there, let me get some background music going. After this stops. So, are 7 tracks enough? The total number is 8, including the vocal track. We decided on that number based on the fundamental number of tracks needed to create a song. It's not too difficult to increase the tracks. The more you have, the more things you can do, but you can also complicate the structure of a song. It may seem odd to choose so few tracks, but kick, drum, snare drum, hi-hat, cymbals, bass, melodies, and vocals are enough to create music. I like to check out the charts, and I've noticed the structures of songs are getting even simpler. With that in mind, listening to the Verse Lab demo, no one ever felt there were too few tracks. Even in modern hip-hop, a few of us have songs with more than 7 tracks of accompaniment, right? So there's the intentionality between that, right? And we know about how the songs, right? So what about the style? The not having a keyboard, the size and everything. Let's check this. And we're going to start off with the 4x4 pads, right? And what it focuses on. I'm going to make a comment about this particular part. Overall, our main target users of the Verse Lab are hip-hop and pop music. And they prefer the 4x4 pads. We added the TR Rick style step sequencer because it also is a vital tool. The step sequencer was initially designed for the TR-808. We know that. Eventually, through DAW software and synthesizers, it's grown into a popular tool. So, what is he talking about with that? The fact that FL Studio made that TR style step sequencer really popular. Lots of people identify with that. So when I took the MV to the studio when I went to Phoenix on a trip, the thing my homeboy kept telling me, he's like, yeah, Fruity Loops, that looks like Fruity Loops, you know what I mean? So instead of leaning towards an MPC style sequencing workflow, or creative flow as I like to say, they leaned into more what Roland does best, which was the TR style, rec style recording sequencer, and gave you a real-time sequencer to boot with it. I think it's worth noting because when people look at it and approach this like an MPC, that's where you make a really wrong turn going to the left, because it's actually leaned in towards the Roland more sequence structure, and they lean into more of that, right? So now, another thing, we're going to get into a couple of things, but let's talk about the Zen core synthesis part and the fact that the ARA people, the same people that developed the ARA were on the team to develop the Verse Lab. So that whole connectivity thing that we see with the Verse Lab was planned, and I think it has I think they have a longer sight in mind, and we'll see if we make it that far. But let me read this, right? For a half-century, Roland has developed various sound sources. These include analog PCM analog modeling, etc. And the Zen core synthesis lets us use these sound sources as hardware or software. It's not just a sound source, it's more like a sound platform. Stop right there. Right there. A sound platform. So what this essentially means, fellas, is that you can basically design your sounds in software and import them over into this hardware unit. And the sounds in here that it came with are polished and ready to go. You don't really need much, I've tweaked enough to make them sound right within the pocket of the song that you're creating. You have enough effects to do that. But if you're trying to design signs from scratch, this is not the machine. But because of its marriage to the Zen core sound system, you not only can download more polished sounds, you can alter those sounds when they're in the software, the Zenology Pro software. That's what they're saying. That makes this thing so flexible. I think it just goes it really goes understated when it comes to that. What I just said is very important as far as how this thing is set up, right? So overall, the most important thing that we want to maintain is a simple workflow of the Verse Lab. Once again, wrong word. By connecting Zen beats, the Verse Lab expands its screen and its tracks while keeping its key functions. The small screen can make you concentrate on the work, but to be honest, the bigger Zen beat screen is useful for elaborate mixing, and on the other hand, when you collaborate up with other collaborators, linking function with Zenbeats is useful. By pairing VerseLab and Zenbeats, there are many different possible workflows. It all depends on the user. So this is all dependent on you as a user, right? You as a user. I'm gonna load something up real quick because I got exactly what they mean on here already. So I'm going to open up this song right here. Again, you guys have heard this. We're going to open up this song, and over here, we're going to load that same sequence up. So, what he's saying there is a lot, okay? So, not only can you design the sounds that you're going to download into your MV, into your already 3,000 plus sounds that you got here. And let's note that. Another thing, let's note, this thing comes stacked with some great sounds, no matter how you slice it. You can download more though, and you can self-sound design in the software for your hardware. I think that kind of goes understated, man. So look, all right, I want to jump over to the other part that's kind of important. Okay. Okay, so this is a part that I kind of wanted to hit on now before I get into a little mixing. So this song right here, this is the regular version of it. This is the raw version inside the box, right? This is just the initial idea. They want you to take this idea and see how my screen changed up here. So if I was to go to the settings, let's see, let's go over here. preloaded this in, right? And I've already recorded it to hear already. So this one is a bit more processed. And you can tell I've added, it sounds different, right? So, so let's read this one. I got, where I go? Okay, so this is about the, hold on. Okay, cool. So, what we're looking at, now this is when they talk about Zen beats as a DAW, right? So, what are some of the advantages of Zen beats compared to other DAWs? Matthew Perry, or whatever his name, what's his name? Let me see, what's the guy's name? Matthew Presley. Okay, cool. Okay, so what are some of the advantages of Zen beats compared to other DAWs? We don't consider Zen beats a DAW. I've said this before. There are a lot of excellent DAWs in the world. We never want to compete against them. So what is Zen beats? We think of it simply from music creation and appreciation. Zen beats aims to be software to make cool music easily and simply for whoever, wherever, and on whatever platform. Zen beats is multi-platform, compatible with Mac and Windows, iOS, and Android. Right? So right there, he tells you that Zen beats is just, the MV has become a platform, and I guess one of many rolling platforms that kind of have this USB or this digital connection to the rolling cloud in some way or another, because no matter how you wrap it around, Zen beats is connected to the rolling cloud. Zenology Pro is connected to the rolling cloud, and I plan on getting a little bit more in depth with using the rolling cloud as my main VST as such, because it just makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense if you're already in their ecosystem. It's kind of like the iPhone thing. If you're in their ecosystem and you have a DAW already, and if you got Atmosphere and all those good things, cool. But the way I'm kind of wrapped up in it, because of the MV1 Verse Lab, right? I can, in Zen beats, I can just easily use the sounds that they have on the rolling cloud. But before you even reach that, you have the MV1 Verse Lab to dive into the, I mean, it's sounds that come in Zen beats I haven't even used, because they're not exactly like the Verse Lab either, right? So I'm gonna go back to the first trip and show you guys some things that I want to kind of cover while I'm here, man. It's good to be messing around on I haven't sat down in my console in quite some time. I just been really busy, really busy, and a couple other things happened while I was kind of off, right? So one of the things that happened is that I added two analog two compressors, and had to send one back. I had to send, well, I already owned one, the one I bought to match mine. I had to send it back because the dude's input gain potentiometers had been tampered with. They were all off center and shit, and then they started giving me all kind of static. So I had to send that back, and that affects how I actually record. Because what I did with the Pro channel is basically I added, let me load this one up. Basically, what I did with the Pro channel is I created a stereo console channel going into the DAW, and I think that one is great for that. For that end, I actually saw another Pro channel that I want to get. I got another Pro channel I want, another compressor I want, because I saw the same guy. He was like a digital thrift store. I should be doing that shit, man. Where he had all kind of random shit, but he had a DBX 26SX compressor and gate limiter for $100. I was like, damn. And it doesn't do everything that this one does, but what it does, it probably does better, because DBX has usually put out some pretty good stuff. Let me see what I'm right. Okay, cool. We're on the track. I'm gonna mix down here. I'm gonna do a little bit. When I turn the mic off, then I'll mix, but a little bit more on this compressor, right? So he has this DBX this compressor mix. Find something on here to play. Okay, I'll play that. Little groove, right? So he has a DBX compressor gate limiter. Let me show you. Let me see if I can get it up here. Okay, I see now. You can get them all Sweet Martyr brand new for $1.99. So used at the store, $100 is not a good deal. Well, it's like 50% off. But let's go. Let's see what this thing does. I'm thinking this kind of compressor with the dual. It's a dual compressor and gate. I'm thinking it will be better on the back end. So the ARTs I'm running now, I'm thinking for the front end, right? They cool to touch the music before it hits the DAW. They do great for that. I think they sound really good. It gives it like some kind of glue, right? But this one sounds like it's great to like do some like mastering in, you know what I mean? See, like this warm optical compressor. The other ones who got those in there, man. You can get caught up in this in gas, man. They be trying to sell us all kind of shit. Okay, they got a black one. Oh wow. Yeah, I was like, that is getting on my nerves, huh? Oh man, so let's do a little mix. Show this real quick. It's always fun. Let's go through the M effects. This would be making the MV1 Verse Lab so MV-like is this whole mouse thing, man. I mean, I understand not wanting to be working in the DAW, but this is so much easier than fiddling around looking at a small screen. I like to see what I think. Now, how can you do better than the company who made the Juno chorus themselves, giving you the Juno chorus to slap on it? And check out, I love this little digital when they come out. Is this one? It's that one. Crazy dope. Oh, okay. One thing I think they did with the RSS space delay, I think they like divided up into a whole bunch of different delays because it was too difficult or too deep for people to be playing with or something. Cause that dope shiitake. This is the most subtle, transparent, but it doesn't sound the same on this one. You can hear it, but it's not as good as the one on the 8000. The one on 8000 sounds buttery. I think I did a video on this. Ooh, what's that? That's dope. Let's do stereo. Yeah, man. Okay. Tape distortions. Turn that up a little bit. Now, mind you, I'm affecting what's coming in from the Phantom. I'm not changing the MFX or anything else. I'm trying to wonder how would I want to sample this Phantom in here to get the raw original sound and then have the effective sound sampled somewhere else in the sequence to create a little movement or something, you know what I mean? Oh, I always like the reverse delay shit. So you can quantize the reverse delay, the first part of the delay, the second part of the delay, and third part of the delay. It's crazy. Got a lot of control. That's dope. You gotta pay attention. You can really hear what it's doing. I like that. I think that'll be the dopest shit to put on right there. And probably like add another beat to it. You can add all kinds of shit. I think I'm gonna do that, although I've already been on here long enough. But yeah, man, this is what we're gonna be doing on live, man. Oh, I don't want that. And that was just affecting the Phantom sound. So, look, man, I think the Verse Lab is kind of underrated. I didn't even expect to spend that much time on the Verse Lab on this particular series. I actually expected to spend more time on the MV8 8000 today, because I already got the song is ready to be mixed down. This one is I'm just pretty much arranging and getting the sounds right. Let's see what we got. If I put it back to where it's supposed to be. Side EQ setting that I liked. It kind of evened out the way the song sounds when it comes through. So let's see if we got that. I kind of turn that other sound down. So this is about all I'm going to do to this, and I'm going to tell you why. I got a friend of mine about to ship this to not ship it to him, but I'm about to upload to the cloud that actually plays instruments, because let me show you something. Hold on. Okay, so eating chocolate. So these two parts right here, the intro right here, so all those parts without drums, I have a guy who actually knows how to play keys. I want some beautiful parts, because one is the intro and one's the outro, or two of the outro, because like the outro's a little longer. But I can't play. I've tried to hear that part, and I hear this is one of those like late '80s jazz songs. Like, anyway, the guy I know, he's from that era, so he's gonna play that. So I just want to lower some of the stuff. Now these are the kind of mixes you're gonna see me do well. This is basically going over as a 2-track, where he can have a placeholder, and then I'm gonna send him where the drums are by themselves and then the keys are by themselves, and he can kind of do it for me and then send it back with his version locked in. So that's what we're gonna be doing with that. The MV stuff, MV8000 stuff that I was talking about, they're not going anywhere. They're gonna probably stay right here, and we're gonna mix them right in the box anyway. I think that's all I got to do on MV Live Sunday Drive, man. And till next time, man, peace.